What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome back to another Football Manager Simulates. And this one, we're breaking the formula with, folks. We've got two managers going head-to-head. We're going to compare their performances in charge of Arsenal, who, of course, at the time of recording are without a manager. The two people we're going to be checking out are going to be Mauricio Pochettino, who I believe a lot of Arsenal fans would quite like to see take the reins and has been linked with the job. And he's going to be going up against Mikel Arteta, who, well, if you believe what you read, he almost got the job prior to Emery's appointment. And yeah, we're going to compare and contrast who they sign, how they play, I guess how they perform as Arsenal manager most importantly, and it's going to be a really interesting time. If you're new to the channel, feel free to check out more of these simulates. We've got some more realistic ones like Mourinho at Spurs, seeing what Football Manager predicts could happen there, and we've also done the downright bizarre Pep Guardiola at a non-league club and Mbappe trapped at a non-league club. I have got some more of those coming your way, so if that sounds interesting, go check them out, subscribe to the channel. If you do enjoy this one, and there's some more similar to this where we compare different managers' performances, do drop a like on the video. It lets me know that you're enjoying it, it lets me know that you want to see more of this, and if you've got any comments for other FM simulates, do leave them down below, guys. So anyway, the way we're going to do this is we're going to go forward 1 year, we'll look at both Arsenal sides, how they got on in the league under Arteta and Pochettino, how they lined up. Should be an interesting one. And, well, without further ado, let's go forward, shall we? Okay, guys, so here we are, Mikel Arteta. It is June 2020. He's had a year in charge. He's not been sacked in his first year, so I guess that's a plus, although he does only have 1 year left on his current contract. And let's see how his Arsenal have performed. They finished fourth. I mean, I want to make an Arsenal meme about them finishing fourth, but it's been a few years since they were the team who finished fourth. You can see last year, of course, they finished fifth. It's an improvement this year. You can see how they've been lining up. They've been playing a 4-2-3-1. Lacazette leading the line, Aubameyang out on the left, Pepe out on the right. And, well, let's have a look at the league table, shall we? How have they been doing? So, they finished 1 point ahead of Manchester United to secure that fourth place finish. Man City running away with the title at the top. Their top goal scorer for the season, we can look at it just here, was Lacazette. He got 26 goals. And Arteta getting a hell of a lot out of Ozil. He got 17 goals to his name. I mean, fair play. Absolutely fair. That's really impressive. If we look at the form, or rather stats here, you can see where he was performing, and he's done very well. We should have a look, I guess, at how Arsenal have done in the Europa League, most importantly. Obviously, they have got Champions League football next year with their league finish. In the EFL Cup, they made it through the quarter-final. They lost in the semi-finals to Manchester City. In the Europa League, it looks like they were cruising along quite comfortably. They made it to the knockout round, and they actually got knocked out to Manchester United. So whilst United may have been pipped to fourth place, Arteta's Arsenal couldn't best them over 2 legs. And in the FA Cup, they actually lost to Brighton. So a pretty disappointing year all in all. Now, I did disable the transfer window for the January transfer window, but that doesn't mean they won't have made transfers in the meantime. And, well, have they signed anyone? They signed David Silva. Oh, I love that. They've signed David Silva for £5.25 million. I feel like Ozil and David Silva in the same team is kind of interesting. He got 10 assists and 3 goals to his name, though, so he's been doing very well for them. 7.36 average rating is actually superb. I wonder if Arteta, obviously familiar with David Silva, just decided he's the man to solve all our problems. Of course, Arteta, if you don't know, is Manchester City assistant manager in real life. A lot of people have tipped him to be the successor to Pep Guardiola, but as was the case last time the Arsenal job came up, he is regularly a name whose kind of, face pops up, I guess, as a possible candidate for the Arsenal appointment. And, well, he's had an okay first year. He's got them back into the Champions League, which is probably the most important thing. I'm assuming they didn't sell anyone, which might be a bold assumption. They haven't sold anyone of note, so looking pretty good. It'll be interesting to see how he's doing after 1 year, but if I was going to grade his performance so far, C+. Champions League football secured. I don't know what Arsenal's expectation was at the start of the year, but I feel like Champions League football would be the main aim. You can see expectation was 5th, so they arguably punched above their weight. And he seemed to get quite a lot out of the players at his disposal. Anyway, let's go and check out how Pochettino did in his first year. Did they play the same system? Did they both sign David Silva? Highly unlikely. And, well, let's go check it out, shall we? Okay, guys, so it is the Pochettino universe that we now live within. It is 2020. They finished 6th. Now, you can just have a look at Pochettino here. He probably has better staff kind of attributes than Arteta, and he definitely has more kind of tends to and tends not to. Will be interesting to see how they perhaps play a role during his reign in charge. He got 28 goals out of Lacazette, which is not a bad total, to be fair. And Torreira, interestingly enough, got the highest number of assists. He got 12 in all competitions, although a lot of them came in the Europa League, where I can tell from their games played here, they did quite a lot. Now, unfortunately, they finished 6th, so they kind of missed out on their expectations. They've got Europa League football again. What did they manage to do in various cup competitions? So, EFL Cup, they made it through the semi-finals. They're in the final, and they actually lost after extra time. Oof. That's a bit of a yikes, isn't it? They've lost to Tottenham after extra time. Kolasinac getting sent off after 28 minutes probably didn't help their case. You can see the team he lined up with here. Interesting to see Callum Chambers at right back. I wonder if Arsenal had some injuries this season. Meanwhile, in the Europa League, they were 3-2 down to Roma after the first leg, and they won the second leg 3-0. Unfortunately, they then lost to Napoli over 2 legs, and you can see, wow. I mean, the end of season form here is tragic. How close was the league here? They finished on 57 points. That's an incredibly low total. Like a ridiculously low total, actually. If we look at their past positions, I was going to wonder if they maybe fell off the pace, but it seems like just they weren't at the pace all year. In fact, they spent one game week. It was the first game week where they won 3-1 in the top 4. Besides that, they were never on course for Champions League football. So, interesting to see him outperformed, I guess, by Arteta season 1. You can see here, for some reason, Aubameyang's not happy. I guess he wants continental football. I mean, this is going to be the interesting thing. Lots of people wanting to leave Pochettino's side. They've not got Champions League football, and that could really play a role. He did dive into the transfer market. He actually made a few signings. Rob Air is a very, very good little wonder kid in FM. Rate him very highly. So, good signing for the future. They signed Lisandro Lopez, who's not a bad option. For the price they paid as well, just 5.75 million. That's a good price. And they also signed this guy, Paulo, who, I'm going to be honest, ain't that great. No disrespect, but I wouldn't say he's Champions League quality, and that's probably why they were able to pick him up for 3.7 million. On the outs, they didn't really sell anyone of massive note. But I would say that at the moment, Arteta is performing better than Poch. You guys can let me know what you think. But yeah, no David Silva at this team, and maybe that's the difference, as bizarre as that may sound. So, Arteta 4th, Poch 6th. Let's go forward another year and see how either of them are getting on. And, well, Pochettino, you have got to turn this around, my friend. Okay, folks, so it is 2021. We are in the Arteta universe. He's absent. What? Have they sacked him? He's finished 6th, so he's done a Poch. Can I call it doing a Poch? I'm not entirely sure. Let's have a look here, shall we? If we go to past managers. So he was sacked at the end of May. I mean, that's pretty harsh. He only had a 51% win percentage, which I guess is not great for them. They finished 6th, though. Let's have a look here. They finished, oh my word, Bournemouth finishing 5th. Okay, then, Bournemouth. Interestingly enough, they finished on 63 points, but it was just not good enough. And they've just let him go. What was their expectation at the start of the year? It was 5th again. Still lining up with that 4-2-3-1. And I'm going to assume he's not got a job in the meantime. Nope, he's gone back to being an assistant manager and he is unemployed. Look how sad he looks. There's a vacant stare in his face there. I noticed they've signed Danny Olmo, who's an absolutely exceptional player in Football Manager. Let's see if they made any other big transfer moves this year. So actually, they signed a few players. They signed Ziyech for 47.5 million pounds. I mean, he's good, but that feels like a lot of money. They signed Wilfried Zaha for 44.5 million pounds. They signed Jamal Lewis for 53 million pounds. Norwich City. I mean, if you were relegated, you're laughing in the Championship with that kind of money. They actually stayed up first season. So they really are going to be laughing. That is crazy, crazy money. They spent 184 million pounds. My eyes are watering. They did make some sales. They sold El Neni, Chambers, Holding, Mustafi and Ozil. That's a lot of defenders they sold. They did sign some players here, including Katic, who's a pretty good defender. I don't know, again, if I'd call him Arsenal quality, and I mean that the nicest possible way. Pedro Santos, who, I'm going to be honest, not familiar with him. He's a regen. He looks pretty good, doesn't he? They signed Christian Kjaer. I mean, they've invested in youth. They signed Sutar, maybe to solve their defensive woes. He only got a 7.03 rating. Well, how did they do defensively in the league? They had a 14 goal difference. And they conceded 47. I mean, that's pretty shocking. How did they do in the Champions League? How did they do? They were in Group H. They made it to the knockout round and they lost 6-0 on aggregate to Juventus. So they got absolutely embarrassed. In the EFL Cup, what did they do? They lost to Burnley. Oh dear. In the FA Cup, they lost in the semi-final to Man City. So a pretty awful season by all accounts, especially with the money that they spent. That is absolutely ludicrous money that Arteta threw at the club, and they regressed. They went backwards. Lacazette ended up with 19 goals, and Olmo, to be fair, he got 7 assists, which as a new signing isn't too bad. You can see Lacazette here was the top goal scorer. But all in all, just a bit of a nightmare season. Let's have a look. So goal scorers, I noticed here there was quite a wide distribution. Olmo, Aubameyang, Pepe and Lacazette all getting the goals. They all played a hell of a lot of games, so I guess they were, consistently the front four for Arsenal as part of this 4-2-3-1. Zaha and Ziyech, who they signed for a combined almost £100 million. It's kind of nearer 90, but still a lot of money. They got 9 goals between them, so those two signings just didn't perform whatsoever. Jamal Lewis, he's been loaned out. So they bought him for £53 million, and then I guess they loaned him out in January. What are you doing, Arsenal? That is crazy, just... I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, I can't blame him for getting the sack for this kind of decision-making. They've got money to spend to bounce back, but, well, we're never going to know what became of it because we need to go and see how Poch got on. I mean, I hope he's not been sacked as well. Maybe he's outlasted. Maybe he started slow, but he's going to find his stride. And perhaps, actually, because he finished 6th last season, expectations are going to be a little bit lower. That'll be interesting to see. He can't have spent his money any worse. And, well, let's go and find out how he got on, shall we? Well, good news, everyone. He's not been sacked. So Pochettino has outlasted Arteta despite finishing 5th in his second season in charge. Interestingly enough, Saka got most player of the matches with 7. And he's played a lot of Europa League games there. And he played 31 league games. So Pochettino, maybe he's playing the long game. Maybe he's more willing to give his youngsters game time. Let's have a look. Obviously, they underperformed last year, so I'm expecting them to have sold some players. And they've made £73 million in sales. They sold Martinez, Rob Holding, Mustafi. Lots of similar players, actually, now that you look at it. Not a massive amount of difference in terms of the players they sold, although Chambers, I guess, is still present. And then on the ins, they've bought quite young. They bought Jack Grealish for £43 million. To be honest, he's not played that great, although he's done better than... perhaps some of the signings that Arteta made. They signed Talvin. I think that's how you say this guy's name. He's the Marseille winger. We can look at him here. He played very, very well. He got 6 goals in 8 Europa League games, 8 goals in the league, which considering the amount of game time he's got is not too bad. So he threw his weight around. Felipe Luis they signed. He played 37 games at centre-back and looked largely solid. So they've solved their defensive problems. They signed Ilic, I guess, to play centre-attacking mid. How much did they spend on him? They spent £23 million on him, even though he's 34. To be fair, 8 goals, 9 assists. It feels like Poch got bang for his buck in his signings. They got Ferro as well, who was their big transfer. He played 32 games, so... Well, Poch Season 2 has just decided, you know what, we need a brand new defence. He's brought in Ferro and Felipe Luis, or Luis Felipe, and they've kind of reinvented themselves. They also signed Ezequiel Palacios from River Plate, and he's looked very, very good at playmaker for them. Again, all of these players, they're not performing crazily well, but they're doing more than what Arteta's signings made. Total goal scorer, Lacazette got 25. Aubameyang got 19 as well, and Pepe got 15. You can see just way more goals and, a few of the big names stepping up and not... Well, he's managed to keep them happy, actually, which I'm surprised about. Poch has managed to hold on to these players. I figured that they might lose one of Lacazette, Aubameyang or Pepe with missing out on Champions League football. That doesn't seem to have been the case. How did they get on in cup competitions? In the EFL Cup, they made it to the semi-final. Did they make it through the semi-final? They didn't. They lost on penalties to Man City, which is unfortunate, but still not too bad at all. In the FA Cup, they got knocked out. In the Europa League, however, they won it in the final against Sampdoria, and that means they will have Champions League football next year, despite finishing 5th. Which is huge for them. That's a really big achievement. That might have even kept him in the job. 75 points. You can see actually the top teams in the Premier League performed crazily well this year. The top 4, you'll struggle to see 4 teams perform as well as that. Chelsea running out victors of the league. Interesting to note, no Arsenal players appearing in kind of the immediate top goal scorers. It's kind of quite an even distribution of goal scorers, I guess, for them. You see, Aubameyang got 11 goals in the league. I guess the Europa League run is where a lot of the goals came for the likes of Lacazette. In terms of average rating, did Arsenal have a top performer? They actually didn't, which is really weird to see. In the top 20 performers, not a single Arsenal player. It feels like it was still kind of an average year. But you look at Pochettino's side now and the players he's playing, lots of these in their early to mid-20s. Will be interesting to see how they crack on in the next few years now he's not been sacked and perform. And, see how long he can last in the job. He's got to get them into the Champions League, you'd imagine, in the next couple of years, kind of consistently. Otherwise, he could be in danger. And, Arteta's gone. Let's see how long Pochettino can keep things going, shall we? Okay, guys, so it's the end of the 2022 season, and they finished 4th. So he's finished 6th, 5th, 4th. The rate he's going, they're going to win the league in a couple of years. You can see here, Palacios is considered their key player. Obviously, he's an Argentine, which might have influenced Pochettino to sign him midway through last season. They paid £5.5 million for him, and actually, he's had an amazing breakthrough season. I noticed as well, they've got players like Smith Rowe playing up top for them and Reece Nelson on the right. Reece Nelson played 19 league games starting. How many did Smith Rowe play? He played 26 games as well. So Pochettino has put so much faith into this youth. And I'm noticing a few of the kind of quote-unquote obvious names not being here at the top. So let's have a look at transfers. What did they do? They signed Van der Beek for £50 million. Good little transfer. I guess he's the long-term replacement for Ilic. They signed Lisandro Martinez. Would he play centre-back for them? He played 29 games. Did they sign him as another centre-back? They did. Oh, so they really have bulked up the centre-back position in the few years that they've had. And then they signed a few players who, I'm going to be honest, I'm not familiar with. Maybe it's because they're fake-generated players. In fact, Berisha, I am kind of familiar with. I just didn't expect him to be signed by Arsenal because I don't think he's that great. And to be honest, he's not actually played for them. So he's been loaned back to Salzburg, maybe. They signed him and loaned him back. That feels like a weird transfer for them to do. But yes, they didn't sign a great deal. They've really relied on their youth. On the outs, they let go of Loic Nego to Porto. I guess this is a guy they signed. They decided he wasn't really cracking on for them. They sold a few of their Greek defenders, who I'm going to not try and pronounce out of fear of mispronouncing. And Nketiah they loaned out. Jacques has gone on loan to Leicester. That's a weird one. Has he actually played much under Poch? He played a few times. He's had an awful year at Leicester, to be fair. And, they finished 4th, as you can see here. 1 point ahead of Manchester United. So he's kind of achieved what Arteta achieved just 2 years later. And somehow is still in the job, which is pretty impressive. Obviously, we could keep going forward a year at a time, and this would last for quite a long time. What I think we will do is I'll go forward a couple years. We'll go to 2024, see how Poch is doing, see if he's still in the job, and then we'll call it there. I would like to know, though, guys, especially from Arsenal fans who might be watching this, who would you like to see manage your club next year? And I guess for the remainder of this year, is there a name that you're particularly desperate to see? I'd be really, really curious to see what people think and who you think is the right fit for Arsenal, because I really do feel like this appointment in real life is going to be a critical one for them. But anyway, let's go forward 2 years to 2024, kind of cap this off. Will Poch win the league? Will he consistently get Champions League football? Let's take a gander, shall we? Okay, guys, so we've gone to the end of the 2024 season, and sometimes with this, I search the team name, and sometimes I search the manager name just to get to the profile page where we're going to start things whenever I load one of the save games that we've done in advanced. I've loaded Poch here, and he's unemployed, so something's gone horribly wrong here. Let's have a look at his milestone, shall we? So actually, he resigned. He resigned as Arsenal manager after finishing 6th. He wasn't sacked. That is interesting. Where did they finish in the league then? Let's have a look. So they finished 6th, but the year before that, oh my word, they won the league. Wow. That's weird. So they went from 4th, they won the league, and then they finished 6th. That's a little bit of a disaster, isn't it? How did they win the league? I'm genuinely curious. They got 93 points. That's an incredible season. I mean, expectations must have been sky high. Their media prediction for this season was 4th, so to finish 6th, I guess he's resigned to save face. And I really want to know, what transfer dealings did they do the year before last? So if we look here, they signed Paredes from Celtic, who's a good little Argentine centre-mid. I guess that's Pochettino flexing his Argentine muscles. They signed Suso from Manchester United for £74 million. He got 10 goals in that season, so he did very, very well for them. Sergio Roberto they picked up as well for not a small amount of money. He's not done particularly great. And then they signed Samu Gonzalez, who I'm going to be honest, I'm not familiar with. I'm going to just assume he's a regen, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. They also signed Brindelli here, or Birindelli even. It feels like he's made a weird signing every year. In terms of the sales they made this year, they sold Xhaka for 32 million. I mean, Arsenal fans, party out in the streets. You've only got to wait. What year is it? You've got to wait 3 more years and you can celebrate Xhaka leaving. They sold Jack Grealish to Villarreal. I guess he never really achieved what they expected him to for the amount of money they paid. And you can see the other signings they had here, including Robert, who I bigged up. Kind of regret that now. Aubameyang went to Shakhtar. And they kind of just cracked on and performed. I mean, how did they win the league that year? We can look at the award winners. I'm going to assume he won Manager of the Year. He did, unsurprisingly. Frank Lampard has won it really consistently. I guess Lampard's just a Chelsea legend in this simulation. If we look at Footballer of the Year, Bernardo Silva has won it a few years. I was wondering if it might be an Arsenal player. Top goal scorer, Fabio Silva got it, although Nketiah, wow, he got 18 goals. So he had a really, really good season the year before this one. 18 goals he got. How did Arsenal do in cup competitions in the last 2 years then? Let's have a look here. So Champions League football returned for the first time. This, of course, was the Qatar World Cup year, so the scheduling is all a bit weird. In the EFL Cup, they lost to Sheffield United. In the FA Cup, they lost to Aston Villa. In the Champions League, they got knocked out to Juventus again. Bit of a bogey side there, but a really strong end to the season saw them win the league. And then this year, well, they finished 6th. We already know that. They won the Community Shield. In the EFL Cup, where did they get to? They won in the semi-final. They lost in the final to Wolverhampton Wanderers. In the FA Cup, they lost to Chelsea. And in the Champions League, they made it to the quarterfinals, but again lost to Napoli. Something about Serie A teams and Pochettino's kind of side being unable to, I guess, overcome them. What kind of transfers did Arsenal make in the most recent years? They signed David Brooks for £43 million. They spent £163 million and sold £162 million. Interesting. They signed Unanvar here, who looks absolutely nuts. Wow, I don't think I've ever seen him develop so well in a save game. He looks crazy good. They've got Milik and Alessio on the outs. Who did they let go of? They sold Reece Nelson to Manchester United for £92 million. All that English talent they harvested and they've just sold it on. They sold Pepe to Lazio for £36 million. Paredes, Tovan. It seems like they sold a few of the players who had carried them, in previous years for quite a lot of money. Their top goal scorer this season was Nketiah. Unanvar had a very, very good debut year. Saka, I know a lot of Arsenal fans would like to see how he got on. He did pretty well over the last few years. I mean, a 7.34 average rating this year and a 7.37 average rating last year. He definitely played a role in Arsenal winning the league the previous season. And I don't know, I feel like if you're an Arsenal fan, I think, maybe I don't want to speak out of turn, Arsenal fans, would you take a league win followed by a 6th place finish? When I phrase it like that, it suddenly doesn't sound so good aloud. But it's what's happened here. And Pochettino, to be fair to him, he won the league with Arsenal, which is something that hasn't happened in a good few years. And, well, Mikel Arteta certainly couldn't match. But anyway, that wraps things up from me today. This was a slightly different simulate, obviously, a different take on things, comparing two identical managers to see who performed the better. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Let me know your thoughts down below. When the Arsenal manager does get appointed, if it's not one of these two chaps, we'll do a full-on simulate with them. Maybe we can look at how Freddie Ljungberg gets on. I am expecting Solskjaer to get sacked kind of soon, so maybe we'll do Pochettino at Manchester United if that's a job that he's still being linked with, should that job become available. I'm sorry, Ollie, I feel like the wheels have come off the bus that you're at the wheel of it's not working out. I feel like I'm breaking up with Solskjaer, and I'm a Liverpool fan. Right, I'm rambling on here, folks. If you are new here, if you have somehow got to the end of this video, check out the channel for more stuff like this. Do drop a like and a subscription as well, of course. If you've got ideas for future stuff like this you would like to see, you know the deal by now. Leave it down in the comments. And, well, that is going to be all from me today. Thank you so much for watching, as always, guys. It is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.